Mother Knows Death, starring Nicole and Jemmy and Maria QK.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mother Knows Death. On today's episode, we're going to discuss a story that went viral this week about Coco saying that she breastfed her daughter until she was 6. A freak accident involving the accidental discharge of a firearm, only this time it was an unlikely gunman. A really alarming case that will be happening more frequently involving kids and AI porn images. And then we'll finish the episode with a woman whose croissant sandwich was moving. And also people puking at Disney. All that and more on today's episode.
You said croissant so fancy.
It was an impediment, like it was an accident.
I think everybody will find it funny. All right, this first story I want to handle delicately because I really love Coco a lot. And after we were on Elvis Duran, she started following the Mother Knows Death Instagram.
And she follows me too. And I love her.
I don't know if she listens, but I don't want to offend her.
And Ice-T was at CrimeCon, and I wanted to meet him so bad, and we just like couldn't figure it out with our schedule and stuff, and I was so bummed about that. But I was hoping that she was going to be there, and I would just see her like walking around and could go say hi. But then when she started following me, I was like, okay. You don't have to be delicate. I don't think that she's wrong. I know that you might have different opinions on this, but go ahead.
Well, she's defending breastfeeding their daughter until she was 6 years old. But I will say, obviously, a couple weeks ago, we had a breastfeeding story where they were saying, what was it the Pediatric Association was saying? It was you could breastfeed up to 7 years old. And
not in the American one. They're worded differently. The American pediatric says to do it to at least 2 years old, whereas the World Health Organization they're the one that are more lax with and there is no rule, like worldwide, there's no rule. But in general, worldwide, it stops between 3 to 7 years old. Not in America, but worldwide, 3 to 7 years old is the range. So it's only weird here. You just have to say that.
I was not down with the 7-year-old age limit that they had put up. I thought that was a little extreme. But Coco is defending it, saying it was a great bonding moment between her and her daughter, and I do understand that. So
I understand because she has like very voluptuous looking boobs, so I don't blame her daughter. But no, seriously, I don't think it's a problem. I think that there is specifically no rules with this from any medical association or anything for this specific reason, because kids eventually will be like, I'm done here. And if they want to do it and you want to do it, I don't see what the problem is.
I think what she said, though, was great because she was basically saying, I'm going to let her stop when she wants to stop. I feel like my problem with it before is when parents force it upon older children.
So let me tell you about this story I found on Reddit. There was I actually wrote it down because it was a little weird. There was a licensed social worker that was asking a question in some licensed social worker page. I don't know why I can't say those two words together. A page that said that there was in her office, there was a mother that was actively breastfeeding a 12-year-old like in public. And she was asking if she should report them to Child Protective Services. And some people are like, no, there's no rule on that. And then other people are like, there has to be a rule on that. And I guess you're always going to have a situation where it runs into the level of inappropriate. I don't think that Coco is at that level now, as some people are saying. But definitely, I think breastfeeding a 12-year-old boy in public it's just not the norm.
That's not right. I don't think that's right. Like what Coco's saying, which I can get behind, as she said, in Europe they're doing it until 7. There, it's nothing to them. We Americans think it's weird, but I don't think there's anything wrong with it as long as it's just in your home. Like, she's keeping it within the privacy of her home and for the comfort of her daughter within their home. She's not making a 12-year-old boy breastfeed in a public space.
The thing is that, my kid's 12 and she goes, and so I'm just thinking about the boys in her class, some of which are like starting to get little mustaches and stuff. I mean, I don't know. There is a point where I don't know. There maybe there should be like a puberty cutoff age or something.
That's what I'm
There
saying.
was
There does have to be a cutoff at some point.
there was this video going viral this week on X, and like I don't even, a lot of times I see videos and I'm like, God, I would like to talk about this, but like you don't even know if things are AI anymore. It's just like it's pointless to talk about if it's not real. But this video that was going viral was this mom that was breastfeeding her 17-year-old. And like it showed her breastfeeding like this boy that looked like an adult almost. And I'm just like, is this real or is this fake? And just like, okay, like that, you could see that it would be possible that some relationships would go into this unusual territory of like, I especially like a mom and her boy of like, okay, it's a little bit too much. And how's a 17-year-old boy going to go out into the world and be confident if he's still going home and breastfeeding to bed? And like 17-year-olds are at the age where they start dating and
A 17-year-old could drive a car. Like,
yeah,
we need to cut
it
it
just
off at some
yeah,
point.
like and I guess when puberty kicks in, then you know that should be discussed. It's just, it is interesting that there's no magic number for anyone. So for this licensed social worker, and I'm sure like whoever's listening, like somebody has had this happen to them, that they're either a physician or a pediatrician or something, that there's been an inappropriate breastfeeding situation that you've had to be like, wait a second, is this like crossing a line of abuse in a sense?
Well, yeah, I think if the kid's getting to puberty and beyond, then that's when I don't know, because I guess legally there's not a cutoff, right? Because how are people fed for centuries? I mean, it's a way of feeding your kid. But Coco's saying it's not a way of feeding their daughter. I believe her name is Chanel. It's a way of comforting her more so. I mean, the kid's 9 now. She was 6. She stopped feeding when she was 6.
The memes of Chanel are my favorite, that says that Chanel looks more like Iced Tea than Iced Tea does.
She is truly
It's
the
so
cutest little
funny.
girl I've ever seen in my life.
It's just so funny that people say that, like, because it really is his spitting image. It's so funny.
I'll wrap this up by saying I don't personally agree with feeding that long, but I'm also not a mother, so I don't understand it from that perspective. And I guess do whatever you want to do in the privacy of your home when it comes to that and your timeline and your kid making the decision. But I would not like to see a 12-year-old boy being breastfed in public. But I mean, that seems like a very unusual case. I mean, she stopped feeding her when she was 6, so she was still a pretty little kid at that time. Even though I'm not necessarily behind that, but you're a mother, so you might have more understanding. I am
Listen,
not.
like
So.
I was in a different situation when I was breastfeeding my kids, because I was working full time, and it just was at at a hospital with a pretty important salary position. It just was very difficult for me, and I kept it going with both of them for a year, which was good. If I was at home or had the ability to be at home with them, I probably would have been able to keep it going much longer. It was just like I had Lillian, breastfed her, pregnant with the other one, breastfed her, and I was kind of like, I'm done here after a year, just because the pumping at work and everything, it's driving back and forth. It just became too much for me to deal with. So I don't know. I didn't stop it because I felt like they were too old. I just did because I was too overwhelmed with life. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
All right. This guy was cleaning his shotgun and laid it down on his bed for a minute, and during that time, his dog ended up jumping on the bed, causing the gun to go off and accidentally shot him.
Yeah. So that's the unsuspected gunman was the dog.
This is crazy.
So this is what I personally think happened. So I showed Gabe this, and because they do have a picture of the gun, the shotgun on the article, and he seems to think that this person that owns this gun is more of a gun enthusiast just because of the certain way that the gun looks. It looks
Okay.
like it's had some modifications on it. And he was saying that in some cases, some of these triggers could require less pounds of pressure to pull the trigger. This way you could shoot faster. So the possibility of that is that the guy could have been outside shooting, right? Because he's in Pennsylvania and some people have huge properties. He could have like ran in the house, threw it on his bed to pee, thinking he was home by himself and just didn't even think about it. And like a dog, like a golden retriever or something size, jumping on the bed and just tapping their foot against the trigger could definitely set it off like that. And that's probably likely the scenario.
This is what the gun expert was saying at CrimeCon in Nashville about the Alec Baldwin shooting with a revolver. Sometimes if you don't have good trigger discipline and you're supposed to keep your finger on the side
Yeah.
until you're ready to shoot. So they were suggesting that it was possible that if Alec Baldwin had his finger on the trigger and then went to pull back the hammer, sometimes that could push the pin forward, which then pushes up against your finger, which could have caused the gun to fire.
Yeah.
So I don't think a lot of people think about how easily it could be, and that's why not having your finger in that area is important. I mean, I guess it's also now this is clearly a freak accident, but with an animal involved that is large and going to jump on the bed and has a lot of force, maybe if you're cleaning your weapons, you shouldn't have the animal in the room at all.
I mean, the guy, like, he could have got killed. He could have, and they said that he had surgery and stuff, but he could have devastating injuries from ammunition like that, especially if he was in a close range. Like, I mean, it's just kind of whatever it was. If you have good gun etiquette, it was just sloppy in general. If you have to do anything, you should have a rack to put it up. It should have a safety on it, whatever. Like, because when you start assuming like, oh, nobody's here, and everything should be fine, it's like that's how accidents like that happen. So
Oh, totally. And did you see the other dog related story on this article that they're referencing?
no.
So they said this incident comes less than a month after a North Carolina assistant fire chief's dog chewed on a lithium ion battery, which then caused the house to catch on fire.
These dogs need to be arrested.
And the crazy part
causing a
about
lot
that
of trouble.
story, they had like a camera in the house and they caught the whole thing on camera. So you
Yeah.
see the dog chewing it and then suddenly it kind of like explodes and catches the house on fire. It's so scary.
I saw a video recently within the past couple of years too that was caught on video, and it was like the dog somehow got the oven, like turned the oven burner on by accident, and it set a pot on fire that was sitting on the stove and like caught the house on fire. I mean, I'm sure there's stories like this all the time, because especially if a dog is bored and left alone for hours, they get into trouble. They rip your shit up and like
Oh, totally.
if you don't crate them or whatever. So I'm sure people have lots of good stories about their dog almost killing them.
All right. For this next story, I feel like we need to start introducing like a new segment called Rage Wednesdays or something, because the last couple Wednesdays in a row we've had infuriating stories. This one coming up. Then last week we had the teen rapist that was let go scot-free. And then we had the week before that the guy that tattooed the girl's genitals. So, in this story, a 13-year-old girl was expelled from school after hitting a boy who made a deepfake pornographic image of her and then shared it with other people. I don't understand how she was expelled and he was not.
This is, like I said in the intro, this is just going to be happening more and more. It's just so, if you see all of these videos that go online every single day that people are making of famous people, I mean, it's just real. It's just going to be, kids have access to the same thing, right? And I mean, this girl is my daughter's age. She's in middle school. And I just keep thinking about how terrible that would be and embarrassing that would be for her. Because when you look at these AI images, sometimes it's very easy to tell that something's AI. Other times you're like, wow, that looks really good.
Yeah.
And I know that people could look at a person with clothes on and visualize what they look like naked, but to look at a picture, even if it's not the kid's body, it's just sexualizing a child that's like at this age where they're just going through puberty and stuff, and it's uncomfortable, it's invasive, and I could see why she was so mad that she wanted to punch somebody, because as a parent, I would want to punch somebody too. Um the dad's taking a very interesting and respectful approach to it, which he's saying like he's not blaming the kid, because kids are dumb and they do dumb shit and they don't understand the implications of that. And he's not blaming their family either. And I do get that to a certain extent, because kids are handed all of this stuff right now. And my kids have had situations with technology of doing dumb shit because they just don't understand the extent of it. Like, we were trying to tell Lillian the other day, when you do get a phone, if you lose your phone, if somebody could get into it, then they could have, because it's connected to my cloud and this and that. Like, they could have access to our whole family's business, your
Yeah.
address, credit cards, all this shit. And she's like, well, no, Dad, that wouldn't happen because I'd have a password on it. And we're just like, yeah, Lil, like, they just don't understand how scummy people are. And this kid doesn't understand that, like, him creating this image and then sharing this image is now on the internet forever. And, like, they just don't understand.
I'm understanding of the family forgiving the child, right? Even though the child should face some punishment, because they can't just go around not getting punished for doing something like this. But they are dumb, to your point, but they need to be punished for it in some regard. The biggest problem with this was the school and how the
Yeah.
school handled it. Because according to this family, the girl had told the school about the picture and they were seemingly blowing her off. At one point, it got so bad that she wanted to call her parents in the middle of the day, and they said, your parents don't need to be involved, which I'm sorry, but your parents need to be involved in anything that has to do with you. They're your parents. And then it got to the point where they were on the bus and he kept showing it again, and that's when she eventually punched him. And, like, listen, I think rightfully so, she punched him in the face, right? Like, okay. He was bullying her and she was defending herself, if you want to boil it down to that. But to expel her and not him, when she was reporting this bullying going on for a while, what the fuck was the school doing?
I don't know. I don't know, like, certain schools have very strict protocols. I know that some schools are banning phones, which
I don't agree with that 100%.
Well,
but
yeah, but I mean,
take this specific example. If this girl wanted to call her family in the middle of the day, seemingly she did not have a cell phone, or they had the phone, and she wanted to call her family in the middle of the day, and then they didn't let her.
Yeah, but, like, what do you think happened when we were kids?
I know,
Like,
but
and,
we
and
live.
on top of
But
that,
we
like,
live in a technology-dependent society now where you did not.
but this wouldn't have happened though if the kids didn't have phones at school to send it around either. So it's like,
No, because it could have happened. This is the problem too with technology. Is like, you in the 80s and 90s used to get bullied at school, and then it would end when you went home. Like, it doesn't end for them anymore with the internet. It doesn't matter if he had the phone at school or not. He could have still made it and sent it around to everybody, and then she's getting text with it.
I think it's different too. Like, if the kid goes to public school, because there's such a threshold for kicking kids out of public school. Like, private schools can do all these different things where kids have to sign a contract and this and that, and, like, you'll get kicked out if you violate the contract, and they will kick you out. I think with public schools, like I said, the threshold is just so much different because they have to tolerate it because it's public. I don't really know what the solution is. It's just, there has to, even if the kid goes home and does something, there has to be some kind of rule, because that child, the one that, it's not like the kid's going home and creating AI porn of a kid that goes to another school. It should fall under the category of bullying, and online bullying carries 24/7, right? So yeah, I would be mad about the school, and like, also, how was it being sent? Because I guess her face, at least with any kind of, if the kids had TikTok or social media, if they were using any kind of an app like that, her face should be picked up as a minor, and that should be flagged.
Well, yeah, but we know how these AI systems are
We'll talk
working.
about that in another story. Is that
So-
today or tomorrow's episode that we're talking about the
I think
Roblox?
that's tomorrow, but
So, yeah, I mean, aside from that, just I just don't know, and I think the problem is that no one knows. If there was a school and a committee, I would sit down and I haven't had to experience that yet at our kids' school, but they're all just also getting into the age where they're starting to get phones, and I'm sure there's been instances that have happened at the school that have been like brushed under the rug that we haven't even heard about or anything. And
oh, totally. I mean, and I guess they're really pissed too because she was expelled and then they're fighting it. And then they were like, okay, she could come back now on a probationary period, but the expulsion is still going to be on her record. And in general, who gets expelled for hitting somebody one time? I'm just saying because
you listen, I think under, and I guess in theory you could say that any kid that hits a kid had a reason. That's why they do have to have a hard rule that's just like, because you don't just randomly hit someone. You hit someone because you're pissed at them and you feel it's justified to hurt them.
I think about being in middle school and the same kids were in fights every other day and they would just get suspended for a day or two. Like it didn't immediately go to expulsion. So that's where I'm kind of like,
but they
was
might
there
have
a history?
a rule that's,
Is there more to the story? Is she go to a private school where it's like one act of violence and you're out? Because in public school, there's no way they could manage that at all.
I mean, I think it's good that it worked out this way because it ended up going viral, and now it seems like the school is going to reopen the case and try to figure out what happened. I really just don't know what the solution is. I mean, you can't. They do have to make a rule like that because you can't. Like, listen, my first thought is like I want to punch somebody if they do anything like that to hurt my kid, but like you can't like solve life by that. So there has to be a rule, but I don't know what I would do. Like I keep trying to think of what I would do as a parent in that situation because the more you talk about it, like I'm getting pissed off. I can't imagine like having to fight for my kid to get back into school over this. I would be like a psychotic rage queen of I don't even know, like calling my senator or something. I don't even know what I would do because you feel helpless in that situation. And I'm glad that at least they took to social media and it picked up a little bit.
Well, I don't know if you saw this part, but it said one student was charged with 10 counts of unlawful dissemination of images created by AI in September. So was that this boy? And like, what does that mean exactly? So did he not get expelled from school, but he has criminal charges? I don't understand it.
Let's say this. Let's say, can you do this, create these images on like ChatGPT, or is there like a certain one that does these porn ones?
I feel like recently ChatGPT has updated their policies and they don't do certain things.
So, but regardless, you put it into some kind of AI thing and you say, what do you like? I want to know what the process of these kids are doing. Like, so
it's probably like they probably take a porn picture and they probably take a picture of the person and they're like, put this person's head on this picture.
So there's no way that the AI capabilities that they could see that that's a child.
Well, it should be detecting that, but we know how these programs work and they're not perfect because it's technology.
This is just, it's just so bad. It's so bad. I don't, just trying to parent and navigate in this world that, I mean, this is something we weren't even talking about 5 years ago.
No, and it's going to get worse over time.
Exactly. Like, I can't even imagine because now it's like my kids still have to go through finish middle school and full high school. Like, what's going to happen in the next 5 years with this? Like, I don't even know how to navigate it, and no one really does.
It's going to be terrible. This episode is brought to you by The Gross Room.
Guys, this week's high-profile death dissection, as we've been saying this week, is on the Thanksgiving Day massacre, just in time for the holiday. We also have a post where we talk about a severely decomposed body that was found and nothing was seen at autopsy, and the only way they were able to determine this person's cause of death was because of the toxicology results. So that's a really interesting post. We also have a really cool story this week that I labeled debunked, where one of the grocery members had sent in a picture to me that's been going viral on the internet for years, and with one claim, and I go through it and say how I think it's complete bullshit. So all that and more in the grocery room this week.
Head over to thegroceryroom.com now to sign up.
Okay, this story is ugh.
I was just talking about these heavenly croissants I want to buy in Montreal, and now I'm going to be a little deterred after this story. So, a woman went on TikTok and shared that after buying a ham and cheese croissant at a local cafe, she ended up finding maggots crawling around in the pastry.
She shows this sandwich, and there are a lot of maggots underneath of the roll just crawling around. It is so disturbing.
You want to know the worst part? Is she said she waited till she got to work to eat it. She took a bite, and then when she pulled back, one was crawling on her hand.
Yeah, no.
And
See,
you know what?
this wouldn't happen to me because I don't eat sandwiches like that. I take them apart. I don't eat like directly bite into a sandwich.
So at first, sometimes croissants could be made with like ham and cheese rolled within the pastry, right? So at first I'm thinking it's inside and nobody had cut it open or anything. Not that that makes it acceptable. That's just how I was picturing it at first. But then when I watched the video of this, it is a croissant cut in half that somebody put ham and cheese into and built this sandwich. The person building the sandwich didn't notice the bugs.
This is my concern, actually. So, I mean, like, if you eat maggots by accident, it's the grossest thing ever, but you're not going to get sick from the maggots. Your stomach acid will dissolve them, and that's the end of that. But are they on this meat because it is going bad and it's spoiled, and that's why flies are landing on it and having eggs, and now maggots are on it, that you could get sick from meat that's been sitting out like that? So that's one of the concerns. And also, if you want to just think about the life cycle, like let's totally nerd out science, the life cycle of what happens here, that a fly lands on meat and has eggs that hatch within as quick as 24 hours, sometimes even half a day, sometimes depending on the environment. If for some reason that meat was out and a fly had access to it, and then they put it in the refrigerator, that would slow down the life cycle of the larva hatching because the temperature is so low. So then they would pull the meat back out again, and then it would have to sit out for a while, warm up to room temperature in order for these larvae to come out of the eggs, right? And then for them to be so many in a sandwich like that, I personally think that they're not having safe food practices to begin with. So that's one part of it. And the fact that this restaurant was like, oh, we'll give you a refund.
That is not even the worst part of their reply, just saying we'll give you a refund. She messaged them on Instagram immediately after and told them about it because she wanted them to stop selling anymore. And they responded, quote, bloody flies. Like, oh, it's the flies' fault? Like, what are you doing there? So now they're being investigated for their, like, the health practices are getting investigated.
Yeah, I mean, that just wouldn't happen unless they weren't doing something right.
But they've issued a policy but asked people not to be swayed by one bad review. I'm like, this isn't a Karen issue. It's a health issue. What are you talking about?
And like, listen, if somebody wrote in there, and I'm guilty of this too, like sometimes you'll read, well, there's a really good restaurant around here actually that Byron said he ate at and got food poisoning from. And I often want to order food from there, and I'm kind of like, yeah, but that one time Byron got food poisoning. But then I'm like, yeah, but it's really good. Food poisoning is like whatever. You poop a bunch and then it's over within a day, right? Maggots, on the other hand, are just like a deal breaker for me. If someone said that any restaurant had maggots in the food, I would scream from the rooftops to everyone I knew never to eat there again. It's just really, it's just beyond disturbing, especially thinking about flies on dead bodies and maggots on dead bodies. Like the whole entire thing just skeeves me out so bad. You want to hear something interesting, actually? So when I remember when I was a little kid back in the day when like people would come door to door and sell you like softball candy or something like that for a fundraiser. My mom got a Mr. Good bar once and she bit into it and said there were maggots in it,
Oh my
right?
god, I would
And she freaked
literally
out.
die.
And our whole entire life, every Halloween, like we would get Mr. Good bars and stuff, she would just be like, "Get those things away from me." The wrapper was like triggering to her because I'm serious. It's because it's so disturbing to have like if it was an earthworm, I wouldn't even care. It's just like there's something disturbing about maggots that at least for me that I put in the same category as a decomposing dead body and I just can't. But but she would be like, "Oh, like they could go in the trash. Like they don't need to be in our house
At
because she
all.
just she was just like those things have maggots all the time." So,
I will say I have been dreaming about my chocolate and almond croissants from Montreal, and I am a little disgusted by this story, but I still will be getting them
it's
when I
it's a
go
meat
there soon.
issue. And listen, like I'm sure that every person at least has had fly eggs for sure because if you ever have a barbecue or anything, especially if you have food outside like that, you see that there's flies on the food and they lay eggs when they're there, right? That happens. And nobody's gotten sick from it. It's just the thought of them actually hatching, it takes time for that to happen is what I'm trying to say. And that makes me think that the food's old, that it's breaking down. You know what I mean? Like it's just really gross. Like why do they have meat out there that has exposure to flies anyway?
This is why I'm so annoyed by the like don't be swayed by one review. Like we're not talking about someone that went there and was like the food I had was disgusting, blah blah blah. Like there is evidence there are maggots in this sandwich. And that's a major health violation because as you said, it's not like you're going to get sick from the maggots. Are they considered bugs or are they parasites? They're bugs.
Well, they are, but they could act as a parasite as well. Like they're a larva of a fly, but also they can infest a person as a parasite.
But yeah, okay. So the issue I'm getting at in general is just like if you're not taking care of your food enough that it has maggots on it, there's bigger problems going on in your facility.
Like technically, I guess the definition of a parasite would be something that needs a host to live off of, where maggots, they don't necessarily need like a warm-blooded host. They could live as long as they have dead meat to eat. So if there was a hamburger in the trash can, they could live and live out their life cycle. They don't need it to be attached to a warm-blooded person. But people could still have infestations of maggots who are eating, like if a person has a tumor, let's say for example, or they have gangrene on their leg, they would be attracted to the smell of the dead flesh and they would live there and set up shop and like lots of them would start to grow, but they don't necessarily need that warm blood to live. They just need the dead meat.
I really hope nobody's listening to this segment while eating right now because it's making me not feel great.
I just skeeve flies. Like and if you have a restaurant, you should have the sticky traps. You should have everything because you can't prevent them, especially if you have a restaurant and you have trash in the back. It's just impossible to prevent them. But you should do everything above and beyond to make sure that they're not near food. And usually when you have a little sandwich shop like that, like don't you have those little like silver trays that pull over the food that's sitting out and stuff?
Yeah, but if they're
They should
busy,
be
they're not
covered.
doing that.
Yeah. Oh,
I mean,
God.
if they're not busy, they're not doing that. I'll tell you from all my years of working
Well,
in a
these
restaurant.
people were not. These people were definitely not doing it.
All right, let's talk about Disney because there's been a million stories going on there over the last couple weeks. So, for those of you who aren't familiar with Disney World, they have this park called Epcot, which features a bunch of different countries, and people do that. I don't think it's an official thing they offer, but people do this thing called drinking around the world. Well, they'll go to every country and get an alcoholic beverage. But apparently, this is becoming a huge problem, and now there's an issue with public drunkenness, people vomiting in public spaces in the park, and just being really annoying to the other guests.
You know, one of my theories on life is that, and Gabe and I agree on this and discuss this all the time. When you find something that you really enjoy doing, like anything in the world, hanging out with your friends, going to Disney World, going to a baseball game, going to a football game, whatever. When you enjoy that, what makes you say like, "Oh, I want to get as wasted as possible so I don't enjoy it?" Like I don't understand it. Like if
Because
you already enjoy, like I understand if you're like if you want to get like wasted at your job because it sucks, but like why would you want to go to Disney World and be wasted? Like don't isn't just Disney World enough?
Well, think about Ricky, for example, because he has no interest in going to Disney at all. And I really like Disney World. And I promised him that we will not go to get, or I will not make him go there before we have children. But after we have kids, I'm like, I want to go. And he's going to be miserable. So that's going to be appealing to him because he doesn't want to be there at all.
I understand that 100%. I just think that are there really that many people that don't want to be there? Is it just like a bunch of people who love Disney and then their partner that absolutely hates it? Like I and really like I don't think there's that much of a percentage of people that go to Disney that just don't enjoy being there.
No, totally. And
Because
like,
it's so expensive too. It's like I'm not going to make you come along when it's going to cost a couple $100 a day to have you here.
do you think it could be worse than a normal situation, a normal drinking situation, because you have the excessive heat? People are probably dehydrated. They're not drinking enough water walking around. They're probably not eating enough food. And then they could easily just get so many drinks
Yeah.
right then and
And
there.
also everybody there for the most part. I know a lot of people drive to Disney, but there's a lot of people that just like all they have to do is hop on a train or a bus to get to their hotel. I just like I really just I don't know, like
Another
and I understand that a lot of adults that don't have children go there, but when you're there with your little kids and stuff, it's funny that they're saying that the lines are longer for the alcohol than than for some of the rides. And listen, like Epcot is my favorite one of all of them. I've always loved that one because it's kind of science based and cool and just like I love the whole vibe there. But I wouldn't ever complain to anybody. And I guess that's part of this article that people are just like, I kind of want to walk through and I don't want to have to deal with, they're saying it's more less like Epcot and more like, what is it called? The Bourbon Street in New Orleans.
Oh yeah. So
Yeah, like it's got a vibe of that, and I kind of like that's the worst vibe ever to me. So,
well, this is another point I want to make up. Speaking of Bourbon Street, because when you think, I think you've never been to New Orleans, right?
well,
But
I'm going soon. Next month I'll go.
So in New Orleans, when you're drinking, a lot of it is super sugary drinks like daiquiris and just things with so much sugar in it. And I think a big problem at Epcot could also be that you are mixing so many different kinds of drinks together. Because when I think about, of course, I've had many occasions in my youth where I've puked my guts out, like after drinking, but it was always after I mixed different alcohols together, right? So when you're in Epcot, when you start, like if you start off on the left side of Epcot and you want to start off in Mexico, for example, you're going to get a margarita, and then you're going to go to France and get a champagne, and then you're going to Germany and get a beer. You're mixing all the different types of alcohol together, and I think that's also just a complete recipe for disaster. For somebody that might be used to drinking and could normally have a couple drinks, but you're mixing them all together, you're not drinking enough water, you're not eating enough food, and it's hot as shit there. So I think that's, with all those factors together, that's why they might be seeing a problem.
It really is. The weather there is just so terrible.
And side note, there was another death there. So what's that bring us to? 5 in the last couple of weeks?
5, yeah. We don't even know anything about this particular one. It happened at
Saratoga Springs, I think. But the only information we have is that the emergency call said person down. We don't know anything
Listen,
about how they died.
This is like, remember a couple years ago when they were trying to say that all these people were dying in the Dominican Republic on vacation?
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, and that wasn't the case. Like that many people die in the Dominican Republic on vacation all the time. And it's the same thing with Disney. Like people die at Disney all the time. And now all of a sudden it's just like the internet and the viral and the making the video. And it's going to go more viral because every single time because the first one was that woman who killed herself. And that was a weird case, right?
Wait, so I have something on that too. So remember when we reported that if anybody wants to listen to that story, go back to our Dark Side episode. But I think that we released that on Halloween. So for that one, there had been speculation that she jumped in front of the monorail, but Annie was saying she was there when it happened, and what she was hearing around the park was that woman jumped from the balcony and landed by the monorail tracks.
Oh, God. Like on the inside of the hotel?
I'm not sure if it was on the inside or out, but like that has to be
Jeez.
so disturbing.
Yeah.
And that was around the time. If it was inside, that's extra fucked up because all the restaurants in the Contemporary are open in the lobby right there.
Yeah.
So, and it was around dinner time. So think about all those restaurants being packed with families eating dinner, and then something like that happens.
Well, I think that particular case was just so unusual the way it went down because the husband was looking for her, and then she had these pictures online that she was pregnant at least, and nobody really knows what happened. So that case went viral, and then so now it's like every single time a person dies, it's just going to go extra viral because let's say like that person that had a heart attack on the Haunted Mansion or whatever, it's just kind of like, okay, that happens. Old people, whatever it was, the case may be. But like that one got so much attention. So now anyone is going to get attention. So there's going to be more. Oh, this person died. This person died. And it's like,
well, it's like the Boeing effect of last year. And you could say even this year with cruise ships, too. I mean, there has been more reports of cruise ship incidents than ever this year.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's just like once one catches on, then they're like, oh, let's, and the news has been jumping and just like social media is known for this now. Just if let's say we're in Disney tomorrow and we see an ambulance pull up, the first thing that we would do is like take a video and post it because everybody would see it. You know what I mean? Like I mean I really don't care to do that unless it was like really juicy.
Like that.
But that's what happens. So now every single time anybody sees anything like that, they're going to pull out their phone and it's instantly going to go viral because it's some kind of scandal they want to try. I mean, like we've said this, the magic's over with Disney, like between the Google Earth just being able to see what's going on behind the scenes and anybody posting anytime there's a problem there. Like anything they used to push under the rug and hide is not anymore.
No way. All right, guys, don't forget we have a new merch store launching at the end of this week. Keep up with our Instagram account. We will post updates on there, or if you are part of the newsletter or in the Gross Room, obviously we'll be posting there as well. And if you have reviews for us, please head over to Apple or Spotify and leave them. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and submit your questions and comments and stories to stories@motherknowsdeath.com.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to Mother Knows Death. As a reminder, my training is as a pathologist assistant. I have a master's level education and specialize in anatomy and pathology education. I am not a doctor and I have not diagnosed or treated anyone, dead or alive, without the assistance of a licensed medical doctor. This show, my website, and social media accounts are designed to educate and inform people based on my experience working in pathology so they can make healthier decisions regarding their life and well-being. Always remember that science is changing every day and the opinions expressed in this episode are based on my knowledge of those subjects at the time of publication. If you are having a medical problem, have a medical question, or are having a medical emergency, please contact your physician or visit an urgent care center, emergency room, or hospital. Please rate, review, and subscribe to Mother Knows Death on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere you get podcasts. Thanks.